Okay, I thought I'd release another update. Not much has been going on the layout, as you can see in the opening scenes, that I dedicated this update to my father. He passed away about 5 weeks ago. And since he passed away, I just haven't been inspired to come and work on the trains that much. There's a lot of things that happen when a family member passes away, aside from emotions and all the obligations. It just kind of changes a lot of things. Another thing that with him, his hobby wasn't trains. His hobby was cars, and that's kind of the way we bonded. So I also work on cars with him, and we had started a project now that I have to finish alone, and so it's really been taking me away from the trains. I have spent a little bit of time, and I thought I'd just share with you just to kind of show that I'm still around and still doing stuff. One of the things you can see here that we're looking at is a 3D printed Shay, and what's kind of special about this Shay is that it uses my wheels that I had a machine shop turn from my file. So what I did is I designed the wheel or the tire in 3D and exported a STL file and sent that to the machine shop, and then they used a CNC lathe to cut the wheels out, and they cut me out a really large pile of samples to try. The other part of that was I was going to design my own wheel centers and gears and have them cast in nickel. And when I went to test print the parts that were going to be the masters, I assembled a truck with the tires and those 3D printed wheel centers. And as I was looking at the truck, I started thinking maybe those things could actually be workable parts. So I needed a Shay to test the trucks to see if it's possible that a 3D printed truck could actually work, or a 3D printed wheel and gear could actually work. I was originally going to put them under an existing Shay, but I just didn't want to mess with those. They were just too good running, and I just thought I would just start building another Shay. I also wanted to have another Shay around because I don't have any backup locomotives, and if I have an operating session and one of my Shays go down, I can't just pull a spare locomotive out of a box. So this locomotive will be a spare. It's actually a fictional locomotive. The Babcock Coal and Coke only had the 3 Shays. At one point, they actually had a total of 8 locomotives. So I am going to have some of the climaxes and stuff, but at the moment, I only have the 3, and I have a fourth one. That's that 3 truck Shay that I've been running. So this is just a fictional 2 truck Shay. It's kind of based off number 8. It's got a shorter, more standard water tank area here. It doesn't have the long extension. These are the 3D printed trucks, and I'll put a video in here in a minute of them running, and you can kind of see how they work. And I'm really surprised they pulled an 8-car train up the grade, and there's no sign of wear on them. The resin that I used is a frozen RPG resin, and then I coated them with Neolube. And kind of the way I look at that is if I can print gears, and even if they only last a little while, maybe it's not so bad. The trucks are designed to pull the wheels out pretty quickly. So that was one thing I was working on at the moment of my father's passing. Another thing will be over in Clifftop. So over here in Clifftop, in the last update, I said I'd be doing some scenery over here for a magazine article that I was going to write. Again, with the changes in my life lately, I've decided to indefinitely suspend writing articles. Actually, maybe not indefinitely, but for the foreseeable future, I'm going to kind of hold off on magazine articles. Magazine articles, they put a pressure on you and deadlines are good. I like how deadlines move things along, but what I find is I've been working at a pace that I don't really enjoy, and I also find that I am making shortcuts to building stuff that I don't really want to make. So I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm just going to work where the inspiration takes me. I don't know if I'm going to go finish the scenery here now. I kind of want to go back to Sewell and start just working up the line there. One of the last things I did over here is I started working on the shed that you can see in some of the pictures. Now, the Mans Creek main line actually ran down here parallel, but again, I have a wall there, so I've had to curve mine around. But I still want to put this shed in here that you see in the pictures because it will kind of hide that track that ends right at the backdrop. Normal viewing kind of looks more like this. And so it's just gonna be a nice break to hide that from just ending into a wall of trees. So here's the shed I originally made. I kind of just guessed on the dimensions, but I noticed in one of the photos there was a man walking up the tracks next to it, and the shed seemed a lot taller than, you know, what this man looks like compared to this one. So I actually got, so I went online and I purchased a satellite image of the area, and it seems like the shack is a lot, or it seems like the shed is a lot bigger. So with the dimensions I've got of the roof off the satellite image, I've got a shed that's more proportioned like that. Now I don't really know what this shed was, but it's pretty big. You know, if you look at this person here, you know, it's almost, you know, 2.5 times that person there. The shed has a lean to it, and so I've kind of got the lean in here according to what I can get from the pictures. But I'm gonna have to build this thing maybe board for board to kind of get that lean in there. So I'll build some sub walls out of some black cardstock for this one. I don't think I'll 3D print this one because it's gonna be more of a, you know, build and modify as I go type thing. But I'm gonna get that shed built before I do any of the scenery in here. I also want to get the car puller that would have been sitting right here. I'm kind of working on a 3D model for that. Actually, it probably would be closer to right here. Once I get those two items, maybe I'll return back here and finish this off. We'll see. What I also did here is I lowered this, I leveled this, the stream. It was kind of cut at an angle, so I laid a laser line across here and cut that level. And I filled in the stream bed, making it smaller. So now that's all the foam has kind of been filled in there. I have to carve this down a little bit here, but I raised this up 1 inch in here. And then I also put foam in back along the back there, kind of some shapes in there, and work some shapes up here at the mine. Now I also did another temporary structure up here. I don't know what the real mine number 10 look like. I've never found a picture of it yet. So I looked through some pictures of tipples I was saving when I was freelancing, and I really like the look of this little tipple. It's at Whitby, West Virginia, so I thought I'll just use its proportions. It helped me get the height of the hill here, and then I do have it level up on top, and I think I might make a mine opening up there. I just threw some foam up there to see what that might look like. But I put the tipple in here so there's about 3 cars that can be spotted up on the empty side of the tipple. For those that don't really know about coal mining, is usually a mine had a piece of track that was, or some tracks up what they call above the tipple. Usually these tracks are on a slight grade. And what the railroad would do is spot empty cars on what's considered the upside of the tipple, and then as the crew was loading, they could release brakes, and then they could roll the cars down through the tipple as it's being loaded without the need for a locomotive there. So you really want to have some form of even number of empty cars above the tipple as you do below, or you need to have the space above the tipple be equal to the space below the tipple. And so I put this right about in the middle of the siding. I've got a road maybe planned through here. I just thought it might kind of break up the scene a little bit and draw your eye into it a bit. And I'm just going to have it cross the tracks and kind of go up behind this hill here. And then there's just going to be a little bit of this will be a dirt road, of course, like a dirt path more like. And then it'll kind of swing off for anything that may be going over towards the tipple over here. As you can see, I've kind of worked a little bit on how I'm going to hide this opening here. I just got some sticks in here to kind of give an idea of what the trees may look like. You know, I think with some carefully placed overhanging branches, I think that'll really draw the eye away from seeing the edge on the bottom there, and then how it winds back in there. If I put some smaller trees on the other side, I think that'll hide all of that. Yet it'll keep it open enough that it doesn't feel like the train is going into hidden tracks. With this road here, this would be a common spot to uncouple to work the tipple if you're coming down this way. For example, you might be returning with empties. You would more than likely spot them here and uncouple, and this is a pretty comfortable spot to uncouple and then pull ahead and then do the switching in here. So I think it works well so far. I'm kind of happy with the way this looks, and I'm glad to have that space filled, because when trains are going on that piece of track, they were 6 feet off the floor, and that was really narrow there. So now I've got all the high tracks filled in so that if something were to derail or fall over, it doesn't have as far to go anymore. And it just kind of fills all this in. It's starting to look more like you can see the shape and what's going on here. I did add a little bit of foam here along the company store to kind of start to work on this on the ground here, and I wrapped it around the front there. I've been just kind of carving this stuff with a fillet knife. This actually works pretty good. I'm getting a little more comfortable working with the foam. I'm going to do a hill kind of on the back side and blend it down a little bit, but this is going to be relatively flat. I might try to squeeze in. There's 2 houses back here. I might try to squeeze in at least have one start right here and come out and kind of be like a 2-wall structure right there. And we'll see how all that goes. And then there's, but there is a road. So there's another dirt road that came along and went around the back side of the car shop here. And I think it did kind of come up this way and cross here. I don't remember. I'll have to look back at my photos. So this is the Babcock lumber office building here that I started working on. And this is the 3D printed, I guess you'd call it the foundation right here. And I printed it with a pocket in here that I knew was sized for some of this basswood scribe sheet that I'm going to use for the floor in here. And it sits in there nice and tight and flush. Most of my structures I like to do board by board, but on this floor here I just use this sheet here. I'll probably put a brace down the middle so it doesn't sag, but I just stain this with a quick stain. There'll be some different things on top, so you won't see the grain that's in here. That kind of makes it look a little unrealistic. But then here's how the walls are kind of working out. So you can see here is one of the walls. Now this is covered with individual boards, so I actually make the board and bat, and it's not a sheet. So every board in between here is a separate board, and then every bat is glued on as a separate piece. And it works really nice. You can see how I went around the door there and around the window. And then these will fit on when they're done here. They'll fit on the groove that's on the outside, so they kind of be like a socket that locates them. So when I do the scenery, I can lift the building off, do all the scenery around here, and have it nice and blended into the foundation, and then just set the building walls that they'll be glued together at that time. I can set them on here and they'll just sit in this socket. The roof will be removable on this one, so I can light and detail the interior of it, but I'll still be able to just lift it off of here anytime I want to. On the inside, I didn't get as quite carried away. This is just a piece of cardstock that I had an image that I purchased a long time ago to print out, and I've been printing those things out to make the insides of buildings. Still have to do some trimming here, but these will be the interior walls are just kind of a white plank. I think it's pretty common treatment for buildings back then. Just to give it something to look at. I don't really want to do super detailed interiors. This building isn't exactly near the edge, but it does have big enough windows that if it's lit up, you will be able to see inside the windows. So I'll get this one finished off to see how all that goes. So far it's working out really good, and I'm really happy with this method of building buildings.